Hi boys and girls, welcome back to Children's Church Online. Today we are going to be learning about how God is faithful. Faithfulness means doing what you say you're going to do and being who you say you're going to be. Let's see how God is faithful in our Bible story today. Today we are learning how God is faithful. God was faithful to a man in the Bible by giving him something that he really wanted. So to start our lesson today, we're going to play a game of charades, where I will act out something and you tell me what you think it is that I want. Are you ready to play? Okay, watch carefully and see if you can guess what it is that I want. Do you know what I'm pretending to do? Did you guess an ice cream cone? If so, you would be correct. Now pause the video for a moment and play charades at home with your family by each taking a turn depicting something that you would want and seeing if your family members can guess it. Now we're going to play again. This time I'm going to depict something that the man in our story really wanted. His name was Abraham, and see if you can guess what it is that he wanted. Do you think you know what he wanted? Shout it out. Did you guess a baby? If you did, you would be right. Abraham really wanted a baby. In order to do our story today, it might be helpful if you grab a plain piece of paper and something to write with. I will do it with you. Today we're going to be reading from the book of Genesis. Do you know where Genesis is in the Bible? It is the very first book. So that means it's in the beginning, which makes it very easy to find. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 15, beginning with verse number 2. Listen carefully to what it says. But Abraham said, O sovereign Lord, what can you give me, since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my state? And Abraham said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be their heir. Do you know what an heir is? If you don't, it means that it's someone who will get all of your things when you die. So Abraham, his life looked like this blank sheet of paper. He was very concerned that there would be no heir for his things. Because he had no children, there would be no one who would get his things when he would die. And this troubled him greatly. But God is faithful. Abraham didn't have what he wanted, but God made him a promise. We're going to jump ahead in Genesis to verses 4 through 6. Then the word of the Lord came to him. This man will not be your heir, but a son coming from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the heavens and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. So, God promised to take Abraham's empty dreams and fill his life with as many descendants or children as there are stars in the sky. Descendants means his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, and so on and so on. So take your blank sheet of paper and let's fill it with stars all over to represent all of the descendants of Abraham. So I'm just going to draw a whole bunch. And boys and girls, if you don't know how to draw a star, that's okay. You can just do circles, you could do dots on your paper, but fill up your whole page. I thought my marker might run out. Here we go. because I'm drawing so many stars all over my paper. So when you're done, it should look like this. God didn't fulfill his promise right away. Several years later, the time was right, and God kept his promise to Abraham and his wife Sarah. God is faithful. He always keeps his promises. So this is what happened. Now we're going to skip ahead to chapter 21 and read verses 1 through 3. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. So Abraham finally had a descendant. He finally had a son, and they named him Isaac. I want you to look at your stars that you drew on your paper and label one of them Isaac. If you don't know how to spell Isaac, that's okay. Just put a capital letter I. Now, if we go back into our Bible and we look at the rest of the story about Abraham and Sarah, remember, God had promised lots and lots of descendants. But it doesn't look to me like he had any more children. Wait a minute. God promised Abraham as many descendants as the stars, but Isaac is his only child. Is God really faithful? Well, let's see. Isaac had 2 sons. Do you know their names? Their names were Jacob and Esau. So let's label 2 stars with their names. Jacob, and again, if you don't know how to spell it, just put a J. And Esau. So if you don't know how to spell Esau, you can just put a big letter E. So I've got Isaac, and I've got Jacob, and I've got Esau. Now Jacob had 12 sons. I won't name them all for you, but let's number 12 of our stars. Ready? Do this with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow, look at that. Lots of sons. So you see, in just a couple generations, God was already keeping his promise, filling up Abraham's family tree with stars. In fact, did you know that one of Abraham's descendants was Jesus? So let's write Jesus on one of our stars. Wow, God is faithful. He did give Abraham a lot of descendants. But there's something else that you should know about how God kept his promise to Abraham. This time, we're going to jump towards the back of our Bible to the book of Romans. This is in the New Testament. And we're looking for Romans chapter 4, verse 16. Because boys and girls, this is how this story relates to us. Therefore, the promise comes by faith, so that it may be by grace and may be guaranteed to all Abraham's offspring, not only to those who are of the law, but also to those who are of the faith of Abraham. He is the father of us all. So Abraham is the father of all of us who believe in Jesus. That's so cool. That means even if you're not related by blood to Abraham, You are one of his descendants through faith in Jesus. You are a sign of God's faithfulness to Abraham. So put your name next to one of the stars. So there's me. And do you have other friends and family members that you know also believe in Jesus? Write their names. We could probably do this for a very long time, couldn't we? Right? So, boys and girls, we are all descendants of Abraham because we are all in the family of Jesus. And Jesus was faithful to Abraham in giving us all the stars in the sky, even when we can't count them all. So boys and girls, for the next part of our lesson today, we're going to do an activity where I'm going to use a bucket and just some soft balls so that if I accidentally get hit with one, it won't hurt me. So I have 3 because that's kind of what it takes to fill up my bucket. And as you can see, if I turn it upside down, they're all gonna fall right back out, right? Even if the handle's up, because I'm gonna actually need to use the handle, they're all gonna fall right back out. In our lesson today, we learned that God was faithful to Abraham, but God is faithful to us too. God always does what he says he'll do, even if it's not in the time or way we expect. God sometimes shows his faithfulness in surprising ways. So we're going to dig into this some more with an experiment. This experiment uses centrifugal force, which can also be dependable or faithful in surprising ways. So I've got my bucket and I've got some balls in it. And in a minute, I'm going to start swinging this bucket around, and I'm even going to swing it up over my head. So yes, it's actually going to be upside down where these balls should fall out, but they're not going to. Do you believe me? Do you think they're actually going to fall out? If they do, remember they're softballs so they won't hurt me. Okay, are you ready? Look at that. It's upside down for a moment and they still didn't fall out. That is called centrifugal force. Did it surprise you? Did you expect that they would fall out? Sometimes our life turns upside down, just like my bucket was. For example, there was a day for our family when I felt like things were upside down. We have a dog. Her name is Lizzie. And Lizzie is a very good dog. We take her on a leash for walks every day. But one day she saw an animal and she really wanted to chase after it. So she pulled very hard on the leash and she got away. And we didn't know where she was. And we were all very upset and very concerned for her. Our world felt upside down. We weren't sure we were ever going to see her again. We weren't sure if she would get injured or hurt. We weren't sure if she would ever come back. And we were feeling pretty awful about it. How might God show us he is faithful even in the hard times in our lives? The day that Lizzie ran away, we spent some time looking for her. And my son, Jacob, went out into the woods to try to find her. Eventually, he was able to find her. Her leash had gotten wrapped around a tree and she was stuck right where she was. Jacob was able to unwrap the leash and bring her back home. We were very lucky that we were able to get her and keep her safe. In our experiment, centrifugal force held our balls in place in the bucket. Centrifugal force is a force that pushes things outward as they move in a circle. God's faithfulness means he sticks with us even when we feel like life is upside down. No matter what happens in our lives, God is faithful. So if you want to do this at your home this week, all you need is a bucket and something to go in the bucket. And since it's been so hot out, if I were you, I think I would fill my bucket with water and take it outside. What's the worst that's going to happen? If it goes upside down, you get a little bit wet. Have fun with it. So today, we heard that God talked to Abraham about counting the stars. What are some things that you like to count? Do you know what I do? Sometimes I count squares of tiles on floors. Or when I'm sitting at a stoplight and I'm waiting, I will count. When my children disobey, sometimes I count. When do you count? We count lots of things, right? Well, today we're going to together make a counter helper. So it's kind of cool. To make a counter helper, you will need a couple pipe cleaners, chenille wires, whatever you want to call them, a couple popsicle sticks. You can use big popsicle sticks, little popsicle sticks. You could use real sticks from outside if you don't have these at home. Maybe even straws, anything like this. And some pony beads, or any beads that will fit onto the chenille wire or the pipe cleaner, but pony beads work really well and a lot of people have them around, so that's what I use. So let me show you what we're going to make and then I'll show you how to make it. So this is my counter helper. You can see I've got some popsicle sticks here and the chenille wire is hooked to both sides and I've got these beads on the middle. So let me show you how to make it and then I'll tell you how to actually use it. So you take one popsicle stick and a chenille wire or pipe cleaner, whatever you want to call it, and you wrap it around. And the second one, kind of in the middle-ish, doesn't have to be perfect. And then the third one, towards the other end. You can put as many beads on as you want, but if you want to be able to use the counter the way I made it, you would need 10 beads on each wire. And you can choose to make a pattern, you can choose to do different colors, or you can choose all the same color. But like I said, if you want to do it the way I did it, you would need to make sure you have 10 on each wire. So right there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you would wrap around the other popsicle stick like that, okay? And then you would just follow suit to the other two. Put 10 beads or the number of your choosing and then wrap it around the other side, okay? So that's how you put it together. Pretty simple. Now, let me show you how it works to help you count things. So what I did on mine was I put a 0 for ones, a T for tens, and an H for hundreds. Because if you have gone to school, you have learned how to count by tens or in 10 blocks. So here's how it would work. Let's say you actually want to go outside and try to count the stars. I'm not sure it's going to work, but if you wanted to, you could start counting them. So it would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 1, 10. So I would come down to my 10 line and move over 1. And these all go back to the beginning. Then I could do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I bring over another 10. And how much is 2 tens? 20, right? What happens when I have 10 hundreds? What does 10 hundreds make? Did you say 100? 10 tens is 100, and so on and so forth. Another neat thing you could do to play with this with a friend is you could make up a number. So you could do this, and this, and this. And you could say, what number is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 500. 2 tens is 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 528. Isn't that cool? Now again, if that's too complicated for you, you can put as many beads on there as you want and you can just count them individually. But I thought it would be kind of neat, since I know many of you are going to school or were in school, and this is how you learn to count. And it could be a fun game that you play with someone. You didn't know you were getting a math lesson in children's church today, did you? So enjoy playing with your counter helper this week. Our craft can help us count a lot of things, but even it couldn't help us count all the stars. There are so many of them in the sky. God promised Abraham that there'd be more kids and grandkids in his family than he could count to. God is faithful. He kept his promise to Abraham, and he keeps his promises to us too. Have a good week.